I'm Ed Rose, and this is a special edition of Citizen Kane. Today's program, available only on 101.7 WXZY radio, remembers the lost treasure of Gardeau. Under the March 16, 1935 headline in the Kane Republican, Shades of Captain Kidd, Treasure Hunters Invade McKean County, the newspaper reported that promoters from New York City journeyed to the tiny village of Gardeau, toting divining rods and equipment for determining the location of metal underground. They made a brief survey of the location and returned to New York, stating that they would return the following day to hunt in earnest for the booty, the newspaper reported. According to reports, tales of bloody piracy, with stolen treasure and all the trimmings, have brought the hordes into McKean County, of all places, on a hunt for a cache of silver, rumored to have been buried at Gardeau, located in the extreme southwest corner of the county. Writing for Cowdy.com, author and historian Francis X. Scully filed a lengthy story on the topic. At the time the treasure was lost, it was valued at $1.5 million, he wrote. According to Scully, in 1811 a Captain Blackbeard, not to be confused with the legendary pirate Edward Teach, also known as Blackbeard, was commissioned by the British Admiralty to raise the wreck of a Spanish galleon which had gone down off the Bahamas during a raging tropical hurricane in the early fall of 1680. Plainly visible in less than 20 fathoms of water, the astute Blackbeard, one of the greatest marine salvage experts of his day, easily raised the wreck. In less than a month, the canny Englishman raised the hulk by surrounding it with pontoons and towed his prize to the safety of Baltimore Harbor, Scully wrote. In June of 1812, Blackbeard met privateer Peter Abelhard Carthouse, who very subtly informed him that he was aware that the English sailor had successfully reclaimed the galleon and its $1.5 million worth of silver bars. According to Scully, Captain Blackbeard knew he needed to act fast and quickly devised a route he could take to get his English treasure safely to Canada. He would follow the Susquehanna due north to what is now Williamsport, and from there to the Cinemahoning until he reached what is now Emporium. From there was a 23-mile portage over Keating Summit to the headwaters of the Allegheny, then on to the mouth of Conowongo Creek near present-day Warren, then to Chautauqua, where he could practically roll down the hill to the blue waters of Lake Erie. According to legend, the silver bars were loaded in wagons, all of which had false bottoms. Covered with hay and straw, each wagon was drawn by 6 oxen, accompanied by a handful of guards. According to Scully's report, Blackbeard never dreamed of the difficulties the land route through Pennsylvania's trackless wilderness would pose. By the time Blackbeard reached Gardeau, his hopes for reaching Canada were dashed. And so, in the late summer of 1812, in the southeast corner of McKean County, near the tiny village of Keating Summit, he and his men buried the huge treasure near an old salt lick. According to Scully, Blackbeard soon made it safely back to Canada and eventually to Britain, where he reported to an exasperated Admiralty that the tremendous treasure was buried someplace in the wolf-infested forests of northern Pennsylvania. Upon returning to America, Blackbeard sent Colonel Noah Parker to the treasure site. Perhaps this was like sending a fox to a henhouse, Scully wrote. While Parker kept intruders away, he also managed to keep Blackbeard from finding out anything about the now well-hidden silver hoard. After the Civil War and for the rest of his life, Colonel Noah Parker flashed hints of personal prosperity, opening one of the first spas in northern Pennsylvania, proclaiming the curative powers of the salt spring waters in Gardeau. When Parker died in 1894, he took with him all knowledge of the secret hiding place of the legendary treasure. But before you go charging off to the salt licks of Gardeau with your forked hickory stick in one hand and your metal detector in the other, you should know the rest of the story. So take a step back. In 2018, historical archaeologist, treasure hunter, educator, owner of Treasure Illustrated, writer and speaker H. Charles Bile published his article Debunking an 1812 Pennsylvania Treasure Legend. According to Bile, the impossibility of raising a 131-year-old shipwreck off the bottom of the ocean 120 feet deep in 1812 should be enough to convince anyone of the fraudulent nature of the story. Combine this with an unborn man entrusted to care for the treasure and the improbability of being able to transport 54 wagon loads with over 100 men required to accomplish such a feat over unimproved trails, and it is readily apparent that this treasure tale was purely in the imagination of the author. Most likely Noah Parker, who was never a colonel, by the way, to create a draw to his mineral spa in Gardeau, or one Henry Shoemaker who was paid to produce folklore for the state of Pennsylvania. Well, so much for finding buried treasure so close to home, friends. Thanks for listening. We'll talk again soon.